Mr. Robert, for joining in. Mr. Robert, the forum is all yours. You can begin. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you, everyone, for joining me today. And I'd like to thank the Gulf Business Network Training Center for giving me the opportunity today to speak with you about LinkedIn. It is a service I've used for almost 10 years now. When I was working as a manager with Apple, it was an invite-only platform, and it was a great way for me to get involved. And a few weeks earlier, somebody invited me to Facebook, so it was great to get in on the ground floor with both of these platforms. But LinkedIn especially has been a great tool that I encourage my clients to use, I encourage my students to use, and really have benefited from it. So if you haven't used LinkedIn before, there's over 300 million people on this network. It's a great place to be found, to build your career, and learn and share. So just to kind of give you a brief summary of those points, each day I find either connect with or find 10 to 15 interesting people that have a role that interests me, whether it be somebody in the title of strategic partner, in the title of professor, similar to what I'm doing now, or even somebody that works for a company that might be at a level that's closer to my level, maybe a middle management. And it's created so many opportunities that weren't there maybe 10 years ago even, where you might have to have a direct email address or phone number for somebody at a company you would want to work with. Powering your career. With that point, really one of the biggest things I've seen is the relationships I've been able to develop as a result of one step away connections. For example, just this past, actually the summer of 2014, I was reached out by an organization called Mentor Global Consultants, who had a mutual connection and expressed interest in having me teach for their organization. And that wouldn't have happened if that person hadn't gone to my mutual connection, or our mutual connection, saw my profile as a facilitator, and gave me the opportunity to speak. And it was a great opportunity to work with her and the United Nations on a training program last fall that may be repeated in the near future. And to learn and share. And we'll go through many I've pulled up today for you after the slide deck, some live screenshots of my profile to see, the different areas where you can learn through some of the shared PowerPoint presentations. LinkedIn also recently acquired lynda.com, so you have access to that if you have certain levels of subscription. And I find one of the most valuable ways to use LinkedIn is to share information about myself, as well as share interesting stories that come up over time. We'll look at the groups area in a little bit. One of my favorite things about the groups area is you can take a look at things that you're interested in. And I always encourage people to look at groups that are regional to them. That's important, so you can connect with people in your own community, your own country. I also suggest similar industry groups. And for example, I'm part of a project managers group on LinkedIn. I'm part of a consultants group. I'm a part of a group called Intelligent Innovation. And there's groups of that nature that are very important for staying on top of industry trends, and again, maybe connecting with people that you wouldn't have a direct connection with. There's also alumni groups for colleges, and also groups based on groups you might already belong to. What's great about the LinkedIn groups versus groups outside of LinkedIn is there's no fee to join these. There might be certain requirements, like you have to be an employee of a certain college, you have to be an actual alumni of the college you went to, but these group areas, you're able to join up to 50 of these, and I highly recommend you look at your group subscriptions pretty regularly and do try to max out how many you were a part of, because it gives you a great way for connecting with people outside of your comfort area. LinkedIn is a customer relationship tool, and I'll show you an example of how I use this in a little bit. For individuals, some of the things you can do to develop customer relationships on LinkedIn is comment on the status updates of the peers in your industry or the people that you've worked with. Again, search groups related to your field status updates and find groups that have similar interests to you. Ask recommendations from your clients. I've been blessed with nearly 100 recommendations from former students, colleagues, clients, people that have worked with me or referred business to me, and if a good feel for my repertoire as a person. And there's no better way to get that glowing review onto your LinkedIn profile and then have someone see it, and you already have that built-in trust because they see the recommendations on your profile. And we'll take a look at that as well in a little bit. And making sure your profile is complete. A lot of people will ask me, well, Robert, should I include a job that I did 20 years ago? And I will say yes. On a resume, you may only have enough room for 1 to 7 positions and maybe listing out your skill sets. But with LinkedIn, you can go back, way back in time, and I even have the lawn business that I started with my father, as well as the gas station I managed while I was in high school. And though having those things on my profile have really benefited me in actually landing clients, because people remember me from 30 years ago, being in those roles. One of the things I mentioned as something you'll learn today is how to identify what to put on your profile, and you'll get to take a look at mine in a little bit here to see that, as I mentioned, I'm a fan of having as much as you can in terms of your backstory as possible, because that will allow people to have context and scope on the wide variety of skills that you bring and the great depth of the experience that you have, even if you've only been in a career maybe 20 years like me. For companies, some of the ways that you can really use this to develop customer relationships is to have a professional company page and update it. We have one at Braathe Enterprises, and say we have probably 600 followers on it. I have one of my students manage it. We don't use it as much as we'd like, but it enables us to have not only my own personal presence on LinkedIn, but to have a presence for the company to make us stand out a little bit more. Some of the paid services on LinkedIn include being able to advertise on your homepage, on your company page, and to really target audiences specifically. But based on the nature of what I'm going to show you today, all the tools and tips available are readily available with a free membership in LinkedIn. And a good thing to do is to research what other companies are doing. Much like a good website, you want to see what your competitors are doing well and compare and maybe add some features to your company page that they have already. The keep in touch area is great, and this is a great area that I visit on a daily basis. And one of the things that I like to see is when people actually remember birthdays, work anniversaries, new positions. These are all valuable ways to keep in touch, and when we take a look at that area live, you'll get to see some of the ways that I've used this to really do some research in the future for business trips I'm going to be going on, to schedule out interactions with people, again making it more of a CRM tool than a social media tool. It's enabled me to, again, reunite with classmates better than any alumni association at the colleges I've attended, because I can search by school year, major, etc. I have a great rapport with my former professors and people that I've worked with before, and this has enabled me to benefit from still having those relationships with my predecessors at Disney and Gap and the people I work with now at Apple, and maintain a rapport very easily. Another question I get quite often is, if I don't know anybody or don't know enough people, how do I get introduced to others? It starts with searching one of your connections and or one of your potential connections, and either sending them a message or sending a invitation to connect. And I always try to make sure that I write out something to make it a little bit more personal. So you can see an example here of introducing or Chelsea introducing me to Chad, and it provides him with a direct connection to who I am, whether or not I'd be interested, and that she would be happy to introduce me on my network. And I find not only does this create, again, a little bit more clarity why you're reaching out to people you may not know, LinkedIn does suggest, and I suggest it too, that you don't blindly connect with people unless there's some clear delineation of why you're connecting. So I find, if I don't know a strategic relationships person at another company, I might send an invite saying, hi, I'd love to connect. I also build strategic relationships at Braathe Enterprises. Can we connect and get to know each other? And people are generally open to connecting rather than just sending, I found you on LinkedIn, I'd like to connect. They really want that personal touch. Once you become more versed at LinkedIn and become somebody who has a lot of connections, a great way to maintain that rapport with others is to create introductions to others. So I often will tell my students or my peers, check out my LinkedIn profile and see if there are, 5 people you would like me to introduce you to, and I'd be happy to do some introductions. And it's a great way for me to continue that dialogue with my peers while at the same time being able to create some new mutual wealth in the area of networking. Another question I typically get is, how do you really generate leads using LinkedIn? And I think this has been a great win for me over the years in terms of being able to really qualify people through an introduction, get to know them through regular interactions on a weekly, 30-day basis, 60-day basis, and really, for the ones that might not be very active or vocal, maybe once a quarter, once every 6 months, I'll check in with them and give them an update and see what things are going on. But I find that Keep in Touch tab is very helpful for this because it does indicate to me what is going on in the industry with people, and it helps me, even if I forget to keep in touch with some people, to always set up a 30 or 60 or 90-day follow-up. You want to be an active participant, and this helps you create a strong brand. So I often say that I spend probably a breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Before those, I'll spend 5 or 10 minutes on LinkedIn, see any updates, anybody that connected with me. I have the app on my phone, and just spending those 15 minutes a day, before breakfast, lunch, and dinner, gives me that ability to maybe share an article, make a couple connections, and follow along with any updates that have occurred since the last time I looked at it. And this is a great pattern I've developed, and it's really enabled me to grow my network to nearly 7,000 connections. And I'd say I probably know personally 4,000 to 5,000 of those, and the others were just interesting people I wanted to follow and connect with. So my network is made up of primarily former students, former colleagues, clients, friends and family, people I've worked with or would like to work with, or connections that have grown out of meeting one person at a company, establishing some rapport, and then making some additional connections. Don't just join LinkedIn groups, actively engage in the discussions. And I think one of the most important things you can do is not just join things and then disappear. You've got to make the time to create contributions and make discussions accordingly. Ask insightful questions. You might want to follow news. You can follow companies on LinkedIn, and you can understand their needs through their LinkedIn activity. If you see common questions come up or common themes around the messages they send you, it can help you to become that kind of person who people will go to. I often find that I can qualify a good lead when someone comes to me and says, "Hey, Robert, do you know anybody who does blank? I know you have a large network of connections." And just having that dialogue very often will lead to me actually being that person that can answer that question for that organization. And that's extremely valuable to having the network and then utilizing it accordingly. And one of my favorite things to do is some of my favorite trade magazines for LinkedIn that I like to share. Inc.com, Inc.com, Entrepreneur, Fast Company, Business Week. These are all great magazines, and even in the States we have the business journals, and we have the Albany Business Review, which I will find locally based articles that will help share some local relevant content to my audience. And building those trusted relationships. One of the biggest things I've seen is, my business is based on word of mouth and referrals or common connections. And I can't think of a time where I've landed a project that wasn't from a LinkedIn connection over the last 4 to 5 years because of that rapport I've built, for not being afraid to ask people for the introduction, and always thinking of the others first before selling to them. Always identifying their needs, what's going on in your company, how can we collaborate, and again, sell them on the problem and the solution, not the product. And I think when you get away from that sales mentality and practice what a lot of people call non-sales selling, it gives you a better opportunity to develop that relationship and that rapport over time. So now that I've finished this slide deck, I'm going to shift gears a little bit and show you a few screenshots of my LinkedIn profile here. And one of the things that I find just coming to the home page is it really kind of establishes my day in terms of seeing who I need to keep in touch with, who's messaged me, what new connections I might have, who wants to add me, and so on. So I'll obviously respond to those at a later point. On the share update page, this is often where I'll go in during the breakfast, lunch, and dinner and find an article, and so I could do something like this. And what it will do is allow me to share an article with the general public, or just my connections, or the public in Twitter. So I try to get the most value out of my social media posts, and I will, anything I post, I will also post over to Twitter, and then that'll share it out not only to the public, but also my connections on LinkedIn, as well as my followers on Twitter. So that comes in handy for just a basic, the first minute of me going on to LinkedIn each day, either finding an article from Inc.com or posting something about my website. So we'll close that window out. The messaging tab is a great way to keep track, again, going back to that customer relationship management system of the conversations I've had with people. And this shows highlights of some of the things like wishing people a happy birthday, and kind of gives me a background of who I've spoken to over the last several days. And this comes in handy where in your email accounts things can very often get lost. Something like this can come in very handy for you because it gives you that long-range overview of all the conversations you've had. And the newest features of this messaging tool, you can also send attachments and pictures and emoticons. So there are ways to really jazz up your dialogue with your contacts and your peers by using the messaging tool built right here into the top of the screen on LinkedIn. On my next tab, this shows you again how to develop that relationship over time with your clients. So back in 2012, I met Leo Dess at a conference, and here's what he sent to me. I thought you might be the man to ask. I'm looking to put together a training for my sales team. I wasn't sure if this is something you do or if you know somebody. And then very quickly, as you can see, just hours later, I said, this is something I definitely do. Sent him a proposal. And then in August, we finally finalized it. And then over the past few years, we've kept the dialogue going. So it just shows me that, about every 3 to 6 months is a good amount of time to reach out to him and keep the dialogue going. And it's a valuable way for me, again, to go back in time and remember every single LinkedIn conversation that we had in order to make sure that we have some good context there. Then we'll go over to the profile itself. I have a professional looking picture. This is a relatively recent one of me that I had professionally done. My headline is something that you can change very often. Right now it says facilitator, professor, former Disney manager, etc., and a couple of the markets where I work. And this is something I recommend changing on a regular basis because it will enable you to get, again, maybe somebody searching by a particular term, and maybe you want to, I could have put in here, attend my webinar on LinkedIn and provide a link to it. That could have been there for a while. And then it shows my 3 most recent jobs, some things I've done in the past, and any education that I've had. You can add languages you speak, organizations you participate in. I use their blogging tool quite often. I haven't done one in a couple months, but I'll show you an example of one of the posts I did. So this was on just how to give your content an audience. And it'll show me how many people have viewed it, how many people have liked it, and then it gives you the ability to link over to other pages. So if you are a blogger, and I definitely recommend you should do that, it's a great free way for you to give your audience and your writing an even better platform where you might actually get some knowledge of who is viewing your posts. Brief summary with my mission. I've got links over to a video and a picture of me facilitating a class. And as I mentioned earlier, I've got all the jobs I've ever done and also recommendations for those. And under each one, I've got recommendations from clients, colleagues, etc. I even put some of my hobbies. I write songs, so I've got links to the music I've written, other videos that have been put out there, my work with Apple, and so on. And I try to go in depth on each of these because, again, if there's a keyword or term like entrepreneurship that I want people to find me for, it's good to fill up your content. This school I taught project management and so on. So that kind of gives you a scope of the profile. Further down in the profile is the skills area. And this really helps you get some, if you don't have people who are comfortable giving you a full written recommendation, you can have them endorse you. So it was very humbling to me to see that a lot of the things I enjoy doing, like public speaking, training, entrepreneurship, being a leader, blogging, have really been recognized by others in their endorsements. And this can help me identify who might want to work with me. If I see somebody here that has endorsed me for training, they might be a good contact to be a reference or a referral source for a job I might want to do in the future. And you can have up to, I believe, 50. And these are some of the other ones that people have endorsed me for. You can also list out the courses you've taken at colleges, as well as any professional training you've taken. And you can also list out, there's the courses themselves, publications you've been doing. So I've got a link to the couple of books that I published. And then just some additional info on who I am and organizations I support, projects I've worked on, volunteer work, which is always good to have on there. And then the recommendations are at the very bottom, so people can go more in depth on what I've done. So each of these areas is free to add to your profile. So I would highly recommend that. A lot of people say, well, I'm out of work, or I'm just starting in business. Well, then list out some projects you've worked on over time. It's a great way for people to see that you're doing something in between jobs, or that you have a history of being able to do some projects. One of my mentors I met at this educators trade show back in 1998, and it created a great, wonderful opportunity to work with so many other people from colleges, etc. But the important thing is laying out the different projects you've done, demonstrating you're good in your community. We all have some kind of good thing we've done over time, and then you have your groups, some influencers that you follow, news organizations you're interested in, etc. So again, during my 5 minutes each day, I might refine my profile during that 5-minute period. With the free membership, you can see I think it's the latest 5 people who have viewed your profile in the last day. You can pay to see more, but as you can see here, it shows you how many people have viewed it over time and how many people view it each week. So you kind of get a sense of who's viewing your profile. It'll also tell you how you rank for profile views, and that can be interesting to see how you rank in your own company. And my company, #1, and it's good to see where my colleagues rank as well, to make sure they're pretty active on the site to get our word out there better and to make some stronger connections. Then your activity. Sometimes you might forget what you've posted, and this shows you the recent activity of what you've posted and shared. I like sharing video content. I like sharing, as you can see here, articles from Entrepreneur Magazine. Shared the LinkedIn thing recently. So it gives you a good past study of kind of articles you shared to see what has worked and how many people have liked it, etc. This is under the Keep in Touch tab under Connections, and this will show me people who have new roles. These are some people that I've set up reminders for. So we'll take a look at Troy's profile here so you can see what I mean. So under each of your connections, there's the Relationships tab, and you can put a note or a reminder, put in how you met, tag them with a particular title, and you can also see their contact info to see, and you can add to it too if you have a phone number or a website that's available. And it's a great way for me. So this is overdue, so I may set a reminder again to talk with him in a day, and that'll come back up on my Keep in Touch tab here. So this has a few different reminders of people who want to collaborate with me. And then further down, you can see all your contacts. And I think this is a great area to see, how recently you spoke to somebody. And I generally like to sort this by my connections only, because it will also list in there people you've reached out to that maybe aren't connected with you yet. So this will show me who my recent connections are, and maybe I want to organize it by new. And then what I'll probably do later today is go through anybody that I may be connected with in the last week. And when you scroll down, it'll show you, once you get to a certain point, how long ago you connected with them. And if you'd like to know, then you can go to the person's name and see when that connection date was. And I think in this case, we connected 3 days ago. So that kind of gives me a barometer of when to reach out to her. But then if you're going on a business trip, so you can see I've got 6,943 connections, which is not a big deal. To me, like I said, it's what you do with them is more important. Let's say I'm going on a business trip to a different location. I'll be able to pull up by location the different places. So let's say I'm going to go to the greater New York City area. This will show me that I have 717 connections in that area. And if I really wanted to, I could select all and send a message to all of them telling them I'm coming. So it's a great way. I don't like using that tool because it takes the personal out of it, but it's a good tool nonetheless for being able to make connections much quicker and keep those connections going. As you can see, other filters: first name, last name, what source they were, people that might be duplicates, any tags you've created. So it really gives you that ability to search in a variety of ways. You can also import contacts, and this is a tool that I recommend. So these are all under here, under add connections is this one. So if you have an email account or you want to import a list of names, maybe you have a great database from Outlook already. You can import those people right into your database and add them to your list. So that's a great tool. Find Alumni is the final one under connections, and my graduate school was through Western Connecticut State University, so this enables me to see who went to school with me. I can narrow it by year, see recommendations about that school, and find out more about the college. So if you have a child who might be going to school, you can create those connections already, and create some new dialogue with people that you might not be able to if you didn't stay in touch with your school alumni network. Companies. This is under the interests area. This will show you the companies that you're following, and then the home page will actually show you news about each of those companies that you're following. So it gives you, again, similar to the personal page, a page to follow along with what's going on and trends in your industry or with the companies you're following. Now, since I'm following 344 companies, I might want to unfollow some of these. I don't work for Shell anymore, so that's not really a big concern. So there might be some other companies on here that I might not want to follow, not to clog up my news feed. But then you can also have your own company page, and I'll show you mine in just a moment. So with this, you can share an update, show what people work at the company. We haven't done any updates lately with it, but it'll show companies that are similar to ours, and then we can also edit our own page here, add jobs, create a showcase page for different products. So it's just a great free way to promote your business. The groups, as I mentioned before, you can join up to 50, and these are groups that I manage, and then groups that I belong to. And so it kind of gives you some simple highlights. And as you can see here, I've got visitors bureaus, alumni groups, places I've worked, places I've lived, but it gives me a broad scope. And again, I'll review these on a regular basis to make some changes. I have been doing a lot of work with companies in Eastern Europe, Middle East, especially virtually. So I might want to find some groups in the EMEA areas to collaborate with people in a different way and make some more dialogue. The Pulse, that's another area under interests, and this is really a news area where people who have quite a following will share their news. And with this, you can certainly break it down by certain areas. Maybe I want to look under big ideas today, and that'll give me the ability to see what some of the collated news are. And I'm big on partnerships, so this is probably an article that I might read later. And if you wanted to share this with your network, you just hit the LinkedIn tab wherever that is, and it'll open up a window, and again give you that ability to share those articles accordingly. Higher education we saw earlier, and this will show you, the rankings of schools, a great way for students to learn about LinkedIn. SlideShare is a very recent addition where you can actually upload some of your presentations and allow people to download them. So I have a couple of my presentations on here, and excuse me, it gives people the ability to learn more about me in a passive way without having to be live necessarily. So very often, if I have a slide deck I've put together and I don't mind sharing it, I'll make it a featured part of LinkedIn by putting it onto SlideShare. And the most recent addition has been lynda.com. And Lynda does require a subscription. Thankfully, one of my jobs does give us a free LinkedIn subscription, which allows us to, or a Lynda subscription, that is, which allows me to learn from trusted experts in different areas like business and technology, and have a dialogue with them through their self-paced learning tools. So we've almost reached the point, excuse me, of question and answer. And before I open the floor up to that, just wanted to share some final points of my presentation. As I mentioned, put it into your calendar if that's what it takes. Like I said, I recommend if you spend 15 minutes a day, 3 5-minute periods a day, Monday through Friday, working on your profile, making connections, and setting that goal for yourself of at least getting to 100 or 500 connections over the next month, I think you'll see some great results in my classes as a college professor. Because some of my students are so sheltered, I live in a rural community upstate New York, and the opportunities that have opened up because they've created a profile and made those connections have been stellar. They have, I often give them extra credit. If they get to 100 connections, I'll give them 5 points on their final grade. If they get 500 connections, I'll give them 10 points. And they've seen, job offers come in, and I tell them stories as well of, a blog post I shared on LinkedIn led to $8,000 or $6,000 in work for me. 2 workshops I was able to facilitate because someone saw a post I did on LinkedIn and said, "Hey, Braathe, can you facilitate something like that for us?" And I said, "Sure." And after a 12-minute phone call and a blog post, it led to some great results and some actual work. So it really does work. And I hope just our 40 minutes together and then the question and answer session that's about to follow have given you some good reasons why you should dedicate, at least an hour of your week to LinkedIn and use it as a tool for both your career and for your business.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Robert, for a very interesting presentation. Folks, we are open for the question and answers. You can either put your question in the chat box or you can raise the hand icon available on your webinar console. So we can begin, and the first question would be, what are some key steps we can take on groups to become most influential person of the group? Is it regularly posting comments on the group, or creating frequent new discussion posts, or hitting likes on other comments, or combination of all?
I would say the most important of those is making comments on other people's contributions, because it shows that you've actually taken interest into that person's post. Second to that, I would say, would be making a weekly contribution to the group. I know the groups that I moderate generally get flooded with contributions, and the best contributors typically will do something once a week or twice a week. So you want to sprinkle in your own content, but do your best to engage people by actually commenting on their posts. And then thirdly, it never hurts to put a like on somebody's post, because certainly that may, especially if it's good content, will drive that and influence others to contribute in the same way.
Okay, thank you. We have another one, that is, how would you make sure that your profile is attractive enough or complete to be noticed and attract people for better job opportunities?
I think much like looking at resumes, take a look at some of the things other people are doing. And I don't think my profile is one of the better ones, but it's been effective. And I think if you can get some perspective from others on what's worked for them, and always be updating it. People like seeing fresh content. Nobody likes going to a stale website with the same pictures and the same articles. And similarly, with a LinkedIn profile, they like to see updates on what you've been doing. And so I think the most important thing is you want your profile to be attractive, and that generally means up to date, listing everything you've done, but also for it to be active. So attractive and active would be the most important things you need to do to make sure your profile is effective.
Thank you, Mr. Robert. We have another one, and that is there a big difference between the free account and the premium account? Can I do the same with free account?
Yes, and actually, I'll pull up my screen again here and show you, what the upgrade options are. I was a member of the premium level for a while, and what I found was the only feature I was really using was the feature to allow myself to get introduced to people outside my network. And then I figured, rather than paying me $90 or $50 a month, and now my internet's running a little slow, so it probably won't come up, but you're able to see, the premium levels. And for me, the main thing was, it was just being able to reach out to about 10 people outside my network a month, as well as being able to search for some on some more deeper levels of criteria, like income level, current job. So if you really want to dive deeper, they have sales tools that will allow you to see more search options, as well as everyone that has viewed your profile. And for a while that was nice, but now I find that it really doesn't matter to me. If somebody's just viewed my profile but hasn't connected with me, it might not be somebody that's that important anyway.
Okay, thank you. We have another one, and that is, it's from posting content perspective. How do I ensure on LinkedIn groups that I'm genuinely interested in the topic or subject, then only joining in to increase my network or connections?
I think it goes back to, maybe when you first join a group, following the group protocol. Some of the groups encourage you to introduce yourself the minute you join. Other ones will put put your posts through moderation. So you want to make sure you respect the cultural norms or the protocols of the group to make sure that some groups just freely allow posting. Others really want to make sure that you're contributing appropriately. So I think anytime I post in groups, it's never about me. The Intelligent Innovation group that I moderate, the posts are always about someone else or an article I share about a topic I believe I have expertise in. So I think establishing yourself as a credible source first, and one of my colleagues has a rule of 7. He says, for every 7 shares of information, only one of them should be about you. The others should be about, a great article or a great video that you know about. So it's not always about you pushing you. It's about you sharing some relevant content that makes the group more vibrant.
Thank you. We have another one, and that is, can I build a sales strategy relying heavily on LinkedIn?
Yes, and I think especially when they added in these features of being able to build in regularly scheduled follow-ups with people, you can use this as a great tool for maintaining that rapport. Now, I know some of my peers in the industry complement LinkedIn with a tool like Salesforce, so then you can kind of track leads and contracts, etc. But I find LinkedIn by itself works very well as a sales tool because of the fact that you can schedule follow-ups, analyze how often you've reached out to somebody, and really create that rapport. So I really think if you don't have the budget or the interest in using a typical sales tool like a Salesforce, it's a great tool to sell with.
Thank you. And the next one is, do you think that getting introduced through referrals or adding connections will get you the desired job or increase your business prospects?
Yes, definitely. And I think it's being very visionary and tactical at the same time. I think setting a goal of, like I said, I like to make about, I would say 500 new connections a year, and sometimes there's more than that. So that's meeting a new person, 2 people a day during the work week. And I think that's a very reasonable goal because a lot of the connections I've made have been people I've already met at a networking event. I don't even collect a business card anymore. I will ask somebody, hey, do you have a LinkedIn profile? And when I'm at a networking event, I'll connect to them right away. And so I think using it as a tool for making those contacts and connections is a valuable way to grow your network and to can you restate the question again? I think I got off the track a little bit with that one.
It is, do you think that getting introduced through referrals or adding connections will get you the desired job or increase your business prospects?
Yes, thank you again for restating it. So yes, I have found in the university system, at least here in the U.S., it's very closed off from outsiders. So by having somebody do an introduction to me to somebody at another college creates that open door that used to require having to go visit the college with that person, even with companies, is if one of my interns who worked during my internship program is now working for a company I'd like to work with, it's very easy for me to ask somebody, hey, you work for Disney or Harman or whatever, can you do an introduction? And it just takes away that barrier of company email, because a lot of people who work for a company may not have their LinkedIn profile set up with their company email on purpose, so that way they can have that rapport and not be limited by the rules and regulations of the organization. So in terms of here's a good answer I give when people ask me what are the best ways to network, and I say coffee, LinkedIn, networking events, and maybe an introduction. So by coffee, meaning you can't always have a cup of coffee or a drink with somebody, but I find I can learn more about somebody in 15 minutes over a cup of coffee than I would at a networking event. LinkedIn being number 2, going to networking events, number 3, and some of those, like I said, referrals would be the top 4 ways I would think to make those connections and establish that rapport. So it's a perfect way to build up your network, find new work. And when I look at the probably every college I teach at now and have taught at in the past has been from a referral through LinkedIn.
Thank you. We have 2 more. Actually, the combined one. That is, what's special about LinkedIn that the average everyday user does not know or see? And what is another? Is there another platform similar to LinkedIn?
Great. That's a very good 2-part question. So I think that the average person doesn't see is some of the things that I showed you today in terms of the search capabilities and the ability to connect with people in so many different ways. Excuse me. And it's really just dedicating that time to it that a lot of people get either concerned with or look at it as, oh, this is too much for me. So I think if people actually took the few minutes like we did today to look at some of the deeper features, it would make it very readily apparent that just with a few clicks and joining a few groups, that it's very easy to find anybody at any company. And I really enjoy the rapport I've developed from LinkedIn. So I think, it's as simple as, all right, I'd like to find somebody at Hollister or Gap or, name your company. You can type in the company name, and as you build your network up, you're just probably one step away from anybody you want to talk to at that company. And then in terms of other tools, one of my favorite ones to use is called zoominfo.com. And what that is by connecting your network to their network, you're able to find the phone numbers and email addresses of key contacts at organizations in several countries. And this has allowed me, if I don't find somebody on LinkedIn, to go to ZoomInfo and use it as almost a business-to-business directory to find out who the new person is in a particular role, how many employees work at a particular company. Now that one is fee-based. I was lucky I was one of the first people to use the site, so I have the ability to go in and I think access up to 100 names a month. But with their free version, you can find 10 people a month using their website. So ZoomInfo would be one that I would recommend. And then a second one is called Shaper. And this is actually an app for both iOS and Android. It's SHAPR. And each day it provides you with the names of 8 professionals you may want to meet. And it gives you the ability to just send out a quick introduction to them. And then if they're interested in meeting up with you, then they have the ability to make a connection with you. And it ties in well with your LinkedIn profile. So I would say Shaper and ZoomInfo are my 2 other favorite supplementary tools for meeting people. And then Twitter even, there are some people that are a little bit skittish about meeting or concerned about meeting people that they don't know on LinkedIn. But through Twitter, you can very easily find industry pros and professionals who have similar interests but don't want to connect as formally. So those would be my suggestions for really good apps that will allow you to expand your network and make good connections.
Thank you, Mr. Robert. We have time for one last question before we end this webinar, and that is there a limit to adding connections, and how many connections are enough to make sure your profile will be noticed?
Well, there's no limit to who you connect with, but there's a limit to who you're allowed to connect with. So until you build up probably somewhere in the nature of a few hundred connections, you might not see as many people, or they might require you to know that person's email address and contact information. But LinkedIn doesn't really recognize on public profiles people that have more than 500 in terms of, it says 500 plus. So the fact that I've got, close to 7,000, they don't list that unless you click on my profile and go into it that I have, 6,900 followers or connections. So really that 500 level seems to be where you kind of reach that critical mass of now you have enough connections where you're at least one step away from pretty much anybody that you want to connect with. So with second level connections, in most cases you can connect with them without knowing a lot of information. Third level, you have to have their email address. And then there's an in-mail level where they're so far outside your network that there's no way to connect with them unless you get an introduction. But that's why it's important to join those groups, because that gives you the ability to connect with people who have a common group membership.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This brings us towards the end of this webinar. Any concluding remarks from your side, Mr. Robert, before we end this session?
I encourage you all to check out my profile. I had it on a couple of the slides, but you can just go to LinkedIn and search for Robert Braathe, and it's Braathe, and I'd be happy to connect with you and share some further insights. But take my advice. Like I said, just work in 3 times a day for a few minutes to use the site during your work week, and it may develop into that CRM or sales tool that you've always wanted.
Thank you. Once again, I really want to thank you, Mr. Robert, on behalf of GBNTC for your valuable time in sharing valuable information with us. And thank you all for those who have attended this webinar. We are recording this webinar and it will be uploaded on our website. So please stay tuned to webinar.gbntc.com for updates or for downloading the soft copy of this presentation in case you have missed it or you want to see it again. With that, I'd like to end the webinar and you all will be automatically dismissed once this session ends. Mr. Robert, thank you very much. Thank you all. You all have a good day. Bye-bye.